And you know what? Here at the American Legion, and the American Legion would not exist if it wasn't for our veterans. So I want every veteran in this room to stand up and stay standing until I tell you to sit down. Veterans, stand up and let's give them a big round of applause. Thank you for your service. And notice we've got some ladies too. It's not all men. Everybody is literally eligible for the American Legion since we changed the rules. If you were in the service since December 7th, 1941, you're eligible for the Legion. If you're a son or daughter or wife of a veteran, you're eligible for the Sons of the American Legion or the Auxiliary. And if that doesn't work, we have a private membership here called a social membership, and that's only good at our post, but all the rest of them are good anywhere. So if you enjoy what we have to offer tonight, we hope you'll come back and consider joining us. We're only going to exist as long as we have people. Let's get to our sponsors, or our speakers tonight. We've got two, and we're going to start with Jim Leach. He was an Air Force guy. And Jim, I didn't know you had so many friends. They really turned out for you. That's fantastic. So they know class. Okay. And Jim spoke several years ago, and so we're having to recycle some of our people. So if you know somebody that hasn't spoken, do a little arm twisting. They can contact me, Dennis Friesen, Jim LeDuc. Let us know. We'd like to have some new people speak. Okay. I'm not going to say much about Jim, but Dennis Friesen is going to keep him on track. And if that doesn't work, I'm going to keep him on track. So I'm going to give the microphone. Jim, you can tell us what you want to, but we want to hear a little bit about your service. We want to know about your civilian life, what you're doing now, just a multitude of things. And you got 25 minutes left because I used 5 minutes of your time.
Love it like a lollipop, right?
Yep.
Okay, Dennis. Okay, I'll start, and you already know my name, but I grew up in Iowa on a farm, and when I wasn't even out of high school yet, and I remember talking to my mother, and I guess we must have been talking about military service, and I said, yeah, well, when I get old enough, I'm going in the Air Force. I already had my mind made up. That's what I wanted to do. And probably the reason for it, twofold, was she had 3 brothers during World War II that were all in the military. The oldest one was he got drafted in the Army Air Corps. He ended up being a bombardier on a B-29, and of course I admired him for that. But he made it back. All 3 of them made it back from the war. The other 2 were in the Army. And then also what enticed me was a cousin. He got out of college. He went to ROTC and went in, and he was a navigator on the big planes. And he was more like a big brother to me than I hate to say it, than my brothers were, but I really missed him when he left. So that's my story where I started from.
Let's go ahead and introduce some of your family over there.
Okay. I was fortunate enough to have family come tonight. My son, he has his hand up, and his mother-in-law. She just moved down to Emporia area where he lives. She came from Washington. Walla Walla? Yeah.
Get it closer to you now. Okay, I got some questions to ask you. Ready for this?
Go ahead.
I'm kind of figuring the reason you joined the Air Force because you couldn't swim and you stayed out of the Navy. Is that right?
Not really.
Well,
we had a big cow tank in the yard for the cattle, so learned to swim in that. It was either sink or swim there.
Why'd you join the military?
Okay,
Why? I wanna know
Why?
Why? Yeah.
Because it was just a illusion. I could imagine myself, believe it or not, being in the Air Force. I was a farm boy growing up, farm equipment. I could see myself under a big plane, a bomber or tanker, with a grease gun in hand, greasing the landing gear. Believe it or not, that's what my imagination was. And so then, when I got out of high school, went through the process of going to the recruiter and took the test and got accepted. Was fortunate enough to go to Lackland. You remember where Lackland
Oh,
was?
yes. Everybody remember Lackland.
Any other Air Force people in here? How about the Green Monster? Remember the Green Monster? I'll never forget that. When I was inducted in Des Moines, Iowa, they flew us down to San Antonio to Lackland, and when we got off the plane, it was like 2 o'clock in the morning, and the only thing there was this low-slung, looked like a ramshackle building, painted green, and they called it the Green Monster. This is while the in-processing, your initial uniforms, and all that type of thing was done.
Did they greet you with a happy face when you got to Lackland?
No. I found out that I was less than a human being.
Yeah, that happened pretty quick, too.
And so...
You know, you missed your mother real quick after that, didn't you?
Well, it starts to make you question, why did I do this?
Yeah, the big if. What happened?
So, go ahead. You got
Okay.
I can ad-lib here if I have to.
How long was your basic training?
It was... These guys are going to be mad when they hear about it.
2 weeks?
6 weeks altogether.
Mine was 6 weeks.
I think that was a standard at that time.
You remember some interesting things that happened in basic training? Everybody remembers basic training because your life changed real quick.
Yeah. Well, this is what I found out it was like to live in open bay barracks.
Yep, had them.
They were World War II leftovers. And I guess the one incident hangs in my mind about that period, that second week, I think it was. First week, you're trying to learn and get along with your other comrades. Can you use that word? And there's this one guy, he was a standout. He was the guy that couldn't figure out how to fold his handkerchiefs because everything had to be just so in your footlocker.
Yep.
And it was just an aggravation to the rest of the guys on the floor. And we got called out to go to the chow hall because you're stampede down the stairs to the outside. And I guess I was in front or something, but I hit the ground, and when I hit the ground running, somebody knocked my pit helmet? Is that a
Okay, I won't say what he said.
It's a jungle gym helmet. Supposed to be heat resistant, I guess. But anyway, it flew off, and the only guy I saw close by was that guy we was having problems with. It was an aggravation. So I decked him, and they didn't approve of that at all. He and I got to go visit our squadron commander before we got to go eat. So, and that was the one incident I remember in basic that I went through that sticks in my mind.
So you remember that first night in basic training, don't you? Everybody does that one.
The one night you don't sleep?
Yeah, the one you don't sleep. Exactly.
Well, it is a strange bed, you know.
Yeah, it's 4 o'clock in the morning, too, so you don't have much sleep. Remember marching?
All over Lackland Air Force Base.
Yep. Remember the cadence? We can't say them cadence here,
No, but you're right.
Yeah.
There's cadence. You had to.
You got to keep it clean.
Right. But after a while, you get kind of good at it.
Yeah.
And because we utilized it when I went to my next base in Mississippi, but they would even there, they would follow us out we had to march from one place to another. I don't know if it was for discipline or I don't think it was they thanking us for anything.
So did you ever get in trouble?
Not really.
You already mentioned one time you got in trouble.
Well, that was about the only time I got in trouble.
Sure.
I did.
I told him ahead of time that he could lie and be anything he wanted because nobody knew the difference anyhow. So.
Well, no, there was.
Now you can keep lying.
You're so kind.
You never did KP. Everybody loves KP.
Oh, everybody does KP.
You remember doing the first time you did KP?
Oh, yes.
Did you pots and pans, or what did you have?
I don't remember, although I did get my share of pots and pans. And running the food bar, keeping the salad up, and keeping the milk coolers full. I mean, the only time they'd ever let you have a knife was...
You wouldn't stab anybody, right?
That's exactly, well, I guess that's what they thought. But the milk the milk was served in large refrigerated units, and they were cardboard cartons with plastic things in them with a nozzle that come out that was about a foot long, and the only way it worked was it had to be cut off for a short period. And they were so particular about not having any kind of weapon on your body or in the footlocker, under your mattress or anything like that. So,
did you like your footlocker? Did you ever move and get it bumped?
No, it was. My footlocker and I had kind of a love affair going. It was.
Yeah. Yep.
It was. I had no complaints. It was something everybody else did, so I figured they weren't singling me out by myself. So, but we got through basic training. And you got any more comments you want me to comment on?
Did you ever fail an inspection?
How many times?
Yep. Just name the worst one you had.
Oh.
Okay, name two of them then.
Well, probably because I just didn't have my uniforms on the hanger correctly in the hanging locker.
Yeah, the sequence.
There's a secret. I never learned it.
You remember mail call?
Yeah. Getting a letter from home. That's what we all were anticipating.
And did you ever get any cookies or anything?
No.
My mother knew you don't ever want to do that. Ever. Don't ever send anybody cookies. That's not a good thing.
Well, usually the DI takes them.
Yeah. You remember your drill instructor's name?
No, I don't remember his name. I remember his nationality. One was... There was two of them.
Okay, we'll leave that.
Number one and number two. Number one was the big, burly, what we imagine typical drill instructor.
Yep.
And the other one was a short, chubby Hispanic guy. And you just kind of learned to get along with them when had to go out to the firing range to qualify. It was probably the hottest day in August at Lackland. And they marched us out there. Of course, we damn near died by the time we got out there. And seemed like water was rationed. It must have been. We never got enough. But it must have been a hard night on the big burly guy, because I remember we'd been through firing range and through the obstacle course, and we were out there where they had set up tables and trash cans with hot water heaters in them. And he was almost over there just about to barf. Right in.
What were some fun times you had? Be honest.
Okay.
But be careful.
No, I would say Lackland really wasn't too much fun times. It's when I got to Keesler.
Yeah.
My next
duty station.
Right. And there was at Biloxi, Mississippi, and as we've all heard in the news about hurricanes, Biloxi they have some nice beaches there, and we would like to, on our off weekends, when you don't get paid, because you only get paid once a month, but go down there and sunbathe on the beach.
You remember how much you got paid?
I was trying to think. It was either $63 or $68 a payday.
There's room and board, though. You got to consider that.
Well, that's right. That's right. Free showers, too.
Yeah. You make some good friends while you're in the military?
Yes. There's probably 3 of them that I keep in contact with now.
Good. Cool.
One of them I'd like to mention right now is this was later on when I got sent to Germany, to Ramstein, Germany. When I was there, they just started up an American Legion post, Ramstein post number 1. And that's where my initial American Legion membership was. And one of the guys from our lab, he ended up being the commander. Mark did a good job, but he and I together went on what's called Freedom Torch ceremonies. Now, this is getting away from the script here a little bit, but can I do that?
Yep.
Okay.
Be honest.
All right. I'm trying to do my best. But on Veterans Day, at least this was in 1965 when I was over there, Veterans Day was highly celebrated in Europe, in France, Luxembourg, Belgium, in that area. And we were, as the American Legion Post, was part of the Department of France. It was all part of the hierarchy. But we started out from Ramstein in Germany there. We drove up to Luxembourg, and from there, he would drive or I would drive. Well, one of us, we stayed in the same car. We'd go to the next town, and we'd meet at either the post or a bar. Or, no.
That's another post.
Right. There's the one in, that's right. Now my brain quit on me. But I remember it was a real nice guest house. When we went in there, it was all Legionnaires in there. Veterans, I should better say. But they just happened to be Legionnaires. But we, as American Legion, over there, we were the official representative of the United States in that celebration. The other countries, Belgium, even Germany had some, Russia, France, they all had their own delegations that went to the ceremony. And it was a lot like what we do here with our Veterans Day, laying the wreaths and marching to the cemetery, stuff like that. It was something that stayed in my mind, and something I'd like to do again sometime.
One thing we talked about is the honor flight.
Yes, sir.
We haven't mentioned that too much, and then you might go ahead and speak a little bit on the highlights of the honor flight you went on.
Okay, thank you. I brought a couple of books. I was fortunate enough to go on honor flight. Most of the time, honor flight it's a volunteer-supported organization, and it costs a lot of money for an individual to go.
I think it's about $700,
Yeah.
$900 now. Okay, well.
But I was fortunate enough. When I retired, I worked after I got out of the military. I worked for 20 years or so for Snap-on Tools, driving around in that white truck. Most everybody in McPherson that's ever turned a wrench knew who I was. But Snap, through the retirement branch up there at Snap-on, talking with Jane Julian, and she said, well, when she found out I was a veteran, and we was talking about honor flight, and she says, well, why don't you come up for it? You need a guardian. And at that time, Rural, my wife, could be the guardian. That's the way we set it up. Although she was, at that point, starting to suffer from a cancer, and I was trying to get over my knee surgeries, and she was supposed to be my guardian, and I ended up being her guardian and pushing her around in a wheelchair. But anyway, if you want to talk about,
What were some highlights of the honor flight that you liked?
Visiting all the memorials.
That's true. I went as a guardian for honor flight, and it's amazing what they do. And the memorials are great.
Yes. And the best part is the respect you get as an individual being a veteran when you go there. Of course, I think at that time was Bob Dole, our representative here in Kansas. He always tried to make it a point to try and meet all those honor flights, and if he could shake hands with you. And we were fortunate enough to meet him on our flight, on our group tour. Can you say some more?
What did you do in the Air Force besides eat?
Oh, believe it or not, I had to work. I was an electronics tech. I started out when I went to Mississippi, Keesler, did basic electronics training, and then from there, I ended up going to Denver, Colorado to advanced electronics training, and they call it PMEL, Precision Measurement Equipment Lab, and it's kind of about as high as you can go as in electronics. Was just touching into digital things like we are used to having now, but it was the lure of going to it for me anyway, and a lot of the guys that got cross-trained. He had a cross-train from a previous electronic field, was a better chance at getting promoted, and they paid you a little what they call pro pay, a little extra bonus for during the school, because it was a hard school to go to and attend. But that's what I did, and I used that training when I got out in August of 70, I guess it was, to go to work for Coors. I went to work for Coors in their container plant. I was their plant instrument technician, and that worked for a while, but I'd already made a commitment to go with Snap-on, and I would get asked occasionally by individuals say, well, do you wish you stayed in? Because I spent almost 20 years in the Air Force. And the thought crossed my mind, but no, I think Burl and I both agreed I made the right decision staying in. We made the decision together and got out when I was teaching at Lowry in the Air Force. And but it was all in all, I wanted to say this is my time in the Air Force, I didn't make a lot of money, but I got enough to get by. We got enough to get by on, and it was a good experience, a lot of camaraderie. You get to just meet a lot of people, and we had some lasting friends and relationships. So, about done?
Oh, I need to know how you met Burl and how you ended up with
Okay. Good.
Let me throw a little bit about his Snap-on. I worked at the refinery, and I think he showed up Friday afternoons, wasn't it?
Yeah.
He'd come to the maintenance shop, and all the maintenance guys would line up to go through the truck. And I don't know how we got by with this, but Doug, you remember we could get all the kinds of tools you wanted out of there. And then all of a sudden, boom, the hammer come down, and that was the end of it. Remember that?
Yep.
He made some good money on us guys. I know he did.
Yeah, it worked well. But I had a good life lesson there, though. And that was, I knew this was too good to last. Really.
Yep.
And I called on Terry's shop when I was in business. Yep. But what happened when I was going to refinery, I let all the small shops kind of got ignored. They weren't getting the service they deserved. And finally, when Tom Izzy come out and said, Jim, we're going to have to ask you not to come back here anymore. Okay. I mean, I kind of knew what was happening.
It was around Christmas time.
That's life.
Anyhow, back to your wife and how you met.
Well, after I enlisted in and went to Lackland for basic training, after basic training, I got to Keesler, and then from Keesler I went to Salina. That's where my first base I was assigned to out of Keesler, was the Schilling Air Force Base. And at that time I was working on navigational equipment, electronic navigational equipment on aircraft. We had the V-47s and KC-97s basically there that we worked on. But I, being a young man, had a tendency to overspend my budget, so I needed some money, and I didn't want to steal. So I went off base and got a job at a service station, got a service station truck stop on Broadway Street there in Salina. And one afternoon, it was in November, I was assigned to go out and flight line with a launch truck, and the purpose of that was if the crews got on their planes and run through the equipment to make sure everything worked, if something was malfunctioning, they'd call the truck and we'd go over there and see what it was to fix it. And I happened to be on duty that day on the launch truck, and we were tapering down about noontime, and all of a sudden they come out over the airwaves. Everybody shut down, pack it up, come on into your shops. And we had no idea what it was. It was the day that Kennedy got shot in Dallas, our president. And, I was working that part-time job, and that was on a Thursday. The Friday or Saturday, it was on Saturday, I went in to go to work at the station, and this young lady come walking across the street. She found out she was a receptionist at a mobile home sales across the street, and she was filling in for a friend of hers, and she was needing work. She come over and just enough to didn't get ready to talk to her, just enough to say hi. And the guy that was the head, not the owner, but the head man in the station there, we did all kinds of work. About noontime, he come out, and I was out in the bay working. He said, "Hey, Jim, that gal from across the street looks like she's getting ready to go to lunch. Why don't you take the rest of the day off and go give her a ride home?" And that's where it started and went from there. Got in the car and...
You were hooked.
Yeah, I guess so. Went on from there, so... But it was a good life.
How many years, how many kids?
How many years did you serve? 20?
Well,
How many years were you
married?
How many children?
65 years we were married, 3 kids. That was the youngest one over there. And got 4 grandchildren now? Yep. They're all girls. 6?
Hey, don't feel bad.
Only a grandma keeps track of that.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
what's up? Anything else? You got anything you want to give me a hard time about?
That's it.
Why not?
Thank you, Jim. Appreciate it.
Right.
All right, let's give him a big round of applause. Any of you have any questions out there in the audience before I let him get down off the platform? Just for us enlisted guys, I like to make this, the pilots get all the credit for flying those airplanes, but it's guys like these that keep those airplanes flying. So, anyway, remember that. Thank you, Jim. Appreciate it very much. He's got a couple of booklets up here afterwards if you want to come up and see what he's got. He's got one on honor fight and one from his Snap-on Tools anniversary edition when him and Burl were special people. All right. Thank you.